Well, it was a property tour. It's all good. It's all good. I want you to introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do. And today we started out by sharing a win or something that we were celebrating.
Well, my name is Sam. Hi. Sam Adel. I'm Director of Sales over at the Hampton Inn East Dallas Allen. I've known Elizabeth for quite a while now because of Coffee Connect and Allen. And a big celebration I actually have is I just celebrated my 10-month anniversary of my company, which I think is really great because a lot of director sales, they'll be like, I don't know if I want to stick with this or not. So it made me really happy. So that's a big win for me. Congrats. Thank you.
That's awesome. Will you do me a favor
Yep.
and just draw a box around my face so that it will.
Right where you're at?
Yep. Because then it will. Oh no, it kind of pin. It's like that's it. There we go. And can you will it allow you to? No, it won't. Okay, it's fine. But it's back to following. It lost the tracking. Welcome, Sam. I'm so glad that you could be here. Yes, absolutely. What?
I said thank you for inviting me.
Of course. And obviously everyone's welcome to invite other people as well. So because we have a couple of new folks to the room, the goal of the group truly is for powerful women to be in the presence of other powerful women, to develop depth of relationship, because oftentimes we can feel as though we cannot own who we are without feeling like we need to lessen ourselves in order to not make somebody else feel badly about it, or any of those spaces. So the goal really is depth of relationship, and then also that we get to grow together where that is concerned. And so to that point, each time that we get together, we have some type of growth segment. And truthfully, with everything that's been going on, I'm like, oh, it's the beginning of the quarter. Okay, good. It's Elizabeth's time to do the growth segment, and then I have 6 weeks until our next meeting, because just while I'm thinking about this, our only month where we're not going to do the first Wednesday is going forward is May, because that is my incentive trip. Fred and I will be in Portugal, so obviously we won't be here for a PWGG. But we will do it the third Wednesday of May. So we'll have two kind of close together between May and June. And then I'll tap folks for growth segments during those times as well. So that is really the goal, is that we grow together and that we can edify and build one another up. And we can also share ideas. Typically, it is a bring your lunch thing. So usually it's during that eating time that I have some type of sharing activity that allows us to, again, we're connecting in that way as well. So I just appreciate you all being here. And just so that you know, the reason why I'm recording is because I have been leveraging some of what we're doing here for my podcast, Thinking That Matters. And today's topic, I was like, I can't believe this isn't already on my podcast. So I thought, this is a perfect time to capture it and for you all to benefit. Now, before I launch in with, I have some formal things that I want to share with you, and then we're going to have some post-discussion pieces after it. But before I launch in on that, I want to ask you, like, when you think of big picture thinking, what comes to mind?
A 5-year plan.
Higher plan?
Like a 5-year plan.
Oh, a 5-year plan. Sorry, thank you.
Like my company, they always think like 3 to 5 year plan.
Okay.
Or like at first it was like 6 months, then a year, then 3 years.
So big picture thinking, 5-year plan. Who would share something different?
Opening and broadening your perspective.
Okay, so opening or broadening perspective, all right? Who else?
A goal that's more general or overarching that requires a plan to get there.
Got it. So big picture thinking, a goal that's overarching, and we need a plan for how we're going to achieve that goal, that bigger goal. Okay. Anybody else?
I think for me, it's something that would require God to be in it.
Okay. Now I want to add a word to what I just asked you to be pondering, and let's see if that changes our definition of, or the course maybe of our conversation. That's really the better way to say it. Leading with big picture thinking. What comes to mind? Leading with big picture thinking?
Development, like learning and development.
Okay, so training and development. What else?
Confidence.
Confidence.
Being open to others' ideas.
Okay, so this kind of goes to what Susan had said earlier, like a broadening of perspective. So it's being open. If you're leading with big picture thinking, did you hear that thinking? Big picture thinking. That's my North Florida coming out for you right there. Just saying. Just saying. It's being open to other people's ideas. Okay. Anyone else would add to that? Or, yes, ma'am, Sharon.
Being open that there's different pathways to get to your end goal.
Okay, so leading with big picture thinking may look like being open also to different pathways of achieving a said goal. Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
Any-
more like a collaboration, being open to collaboration as opposed to having an idea and dictating like.
So collaboration versus dictation. Interesting. Okay, I'll say it again.
Mind mapping.
Oh, mind mapping. Who in here is?
Old school, but I love it.
I know. Who in here has ever mind mapped something before? Not many of you. That might be a worthwhile activity to do one of these days to process through things. So that is really where I wanted us to land today, is this leading with big picture thinking, and to give you some very specific not only concepts. I want to dispel some myths around it, and then I really want you to assess your own leadership as it relates to leading with big picture thinking. Because the goal is that those of us who are in this room are leading in the space where we have been placed, or where we find ourselves, or the businesses that we have created and we are now building. And that's the goal today. I love this statement. The true measure of leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. And influence is incredibly important to me. As a matter of fact, I've finally, after a few years of really working to develop a strong purpose statement for myself, or one might call it a vision statement, but I state it as my purpose is to be an influence, a positive force for transformation in the lives of individuals and organizations. And I do add, depending on my audience, as I am characterized by the supernatural power of God. So that is something that I say to myself every single morning, and I have it on my board in my office as well. So influence is incredibly important. Hear this: followers in a voluntary organization cannot be forced to get on board. If the leader has no influence with them, then they won't follow. Who in here has ever been part of a volunteer organization? Yes. Can we attest to the fact that you can't make volunteers follow you? Right? It's important that we understand and think about what is your own ability to influence others. And really, even when you are in a position of, I'm going to call it authoritative titled leadership, learning how to harness influence and then use it well will serve you incredibly well as a leader. So that whatever you're building, be it your business or you're helping to build an organization, it's really looking at how can you develop or enhance your ability to exert influence on other people, and then to teach other people to do the same thing. Because I would challenge each of you, you've been in business long enough in your spaces, who are you speaking into? Who are you encouraging? Who are you coming alongside to help them in their development? All right, so first let me dispel some myths about leaders and leaderships. I'm going to give you 4 if you're a note taker. The first is the management myth. Okay, the management myth as it relates to leading with big picture. Leading and management are not the same thing. You manage things, you lead people. You manage resources, you lead people. And if we're leading people, that means we're influencing people. And if we put it in the course of like the direction, say, of an overall company, we're leading with influence, but we are managing the direction of how things are going. In a sense, you still have a rudder on a ship. You still have a way of course correcting the direction of that. So we could manage or maintain the direction that we're going. Leading, though, is leading through influence. But in my mind, I remember a company that I was with for 19 years, the founders would always say, you manage things, you lead people. So that's the management myth. It's really getting out of our head that management and leadership are not the same thing. Number 2, the entrepreneur and pioneer myth. You might be going, wait, what? So let me explain. Oftentimes, there is this connection that if someone is an entrepreneur, it automatically makes them a good leader. Or if someone is a pioneer, it automatically makes them a good leader. And that is very much a myth, right? That not all, I see it in the business world all the time. You've got someone that's a rock star, they're selling, they're at the top of their game, they're hitting the top of the leaderboard, and next thing you know, whoever is in leadership goes, you need to be a leader. Let's make you a sales manager, or let's make you a division manager, or let's make you a regional manager. And just because they're great at sales does not equate to being great at leadership or business ownership for that matter. So not all top producers are leaders. And it's the same that I like to say, not all people at the top of their game are good speakers, or top of their game are good teachers of what they're doing. It's one of the hardest transference of skill set. So that's the entrepreneur and pioneer myth. The third myth is the knowledge myth. Just because someone is incredibly smart does not automatically qualify them to be a great leader. Anybody get an amen on that?
Yes.
Okay. So IQ doesn't necessarily equate to leadership. I think about some of the amazing leaders that I've been able to, whether it's study under or be mentored by. Yes, have some been incredibly intelligent? You bet they have been. And there have been some that I think about their experience. They wouldn't be at the top of their class. They weren't even at the top of their class, but man, were they amazing leaders in what they did. All right, that's our third myth. Our fourth myth is the position myth. Stanley Hufty stated, it's not the position that makes the leader, it's the leader that makes the position. So sometimes we think I have to have the position in order to lead, when in fact you can lead with or without a position. And oftentimes someone gets put into a position for the purpose of leading, but being in a position does not make someone a leader. Okay, so let's pause here. The management myth, the entrepreneur pioneer myth, the knowledge myth, the position myth. Which one stands out to you? And I'd love to know why. Or maybe that's because you've experienced it yourself, or you have observed it firsthand. What say you?
Number 1.
Okay, tell me why. That's the management myth.
Because I've always wanted to teach and empower people. When I went to work for the National Ovarian Cancer Coalition, one of the interview questions was, what do you want your tombstone to say? And I wanted mine to say, she empowered volunteers to find their calling. Well, now I want to empower my employees in whatever way I can, just to be the best that they can be.
I love it. I love it. So it's the influence piece of that really speaks to you. Somebody else? Yes, ma'am, Sam.
I would say number 4.
Okay, so the position myth. Tell me why.
So with me having an education background and going into hospitality, I thought I have to have a degree in hospitality management or business or something like that. But my VP says the reason why we picked you and our owner picked you was because you have the education background to educate people about the hotel, about hospitality and taking two things that you love, education and hospitality, putting into a position. So I thought, oh, and now I'm realizing that now 10 months in, that this is like the perfect role for me.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. Anyone else have something different? Yes, Ashley.
I think number 3, that one stuck out to me the most about not automatically being a great leader, because I think, kind of going off what Susan said with helping cultivate them to be the best they can be, a great leader I feel also has really good awareness and is kind of like a chameleon and is able to adapt to, because like everybody's different. I need to lead you differently than I would lead you. So I think it's having that awareness and being able to adapt to different people and recognize the type of leadership they
Necessary.
need to be like their best selves.
Yeah, that's good. So that makes me think maybe in our next quarter, when I do the growth segment, I'll do strategic leadership and share with you some core principles on how can you strategically lead people based on their skill and their will, and how that fleshes out for them. Lara, were you going to add something? I thought you had raised your hand.
Well, it was, for me, I think it's both 4 and 1, because long before I was given the position of manager, I was already doing the job. And that's what they basically told me. You've been doing the job just without the responsibility of having the job.
Got it.
That was that.
So you've lived that, the manager myth, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I totally get the management myth about we do manage tasks. You have to be able to influence and lead people, or it's not productive.
That's a great way to say it. If we're not able to influence and lead people, it's tough for it to be productive. And when it's not productive, what's the cost of that? When we try to manage people versus influence and lead them, what is the cost of that to us as women trying to lead or thinking that we're leading? So let me restate it. When we try to manage people, what does that cost us?
Serenity.
Serenity. Okay. Serenity.
Frustration.
Frustration. Yes. Somebody else?
There's a quote, I don't know who said it, but leadership is about service, not about position. And I saw an analogy one time where you have a pyramid, all your workers, at the top is the leader, the boss, the owner, the whoever. If you flip it over,
Yes.
and it's this way, and your leader is here in the trenches doing service alongside the people, you're building a relationship there of trust and respect, because you're not putting yourself at the top of the pyramid, you're down there supporting everybody else going up. And I just think that's kind of,
I love the reverse. I love the reverse triangle, which, yes, that's so good. And really, if you're a faith-based person, that is biblical. He or she who wants to be first will be last and servant of all. So there is a biblical principle to that. So if we're going to lead with big picture, if we're going to exert and harness influence and use it effectively, then we want to be aware of the myths that we don't find ourselves stuck in them. And really in a vicious cycle of trying to manage people, of thinking, well, I'm an entrepreneur, I should be able to lead well, which doesn't mean that you can't learn to lead well. Please hear me, right? You can be super smart and not lead well. Can you still learn to lead well? Yes, you can still learn to lead well, which is why you want to surround yourself with people who will help to elevate your game. That it's not about just the amount of knowledge that we have, and it's also not about the position that we hold. So those myths, I wanted to lay a foundation with those. Now, let's talk about qualities of, you may say qualities of potential leaders, because you're trying to identify leaders that you want to help grow. You could also utilize these 10 things I'm about to give you as an assessment for yourself, right? So I'm going to give you 10, we'll anchor it with words, excuse me, and what I would recommend for your own self and in assessing your own leadership, just on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being I am characterized consistently in this space, or 1 being not at all. okay? And give yourself a more qualitative measure, because let's face it, I mean, I could be a 5 when I'm dealing with, let's say, someone within my family, but then put me into a different situation where it's different people that rub me the wrong way, I could totally be a 2. Okay, so anyway, so qualities of potential leaders, or you're assessing your own self as leader. So the number one is positiveness, or we might say positivity. How well do you see yourself in the sense of positivity? Seeing people and situations in a positive way. That's an important quality. That is not to say that we ignore that which is challenging, that we try to pretend like it is not there, that we don't address the elephants that are in the rooms in which we find ourselves. It is, though, speaks to our ability to draw up positivity, to be able to see people and situations in a positive way. Number 2, the word is servanthood. Servanthood. This speaks to what we were just talking about with the upside down triangle, where your primary workers are at the top, and the leader is supporting, serving from that bottom spot. So servanthood is our willingness to put aside self. So it's a great way to ask ourselves. And this is when I think for some of you, because of the businesses that you are in, some of these words you're going to want to star, because they're going to be qualities and characteristics for the people you want to hire that are going to help grow your business to the next level. So servanthood is number 2. Number 3, growth potential. Growth potential. I want you to think this is a hunger for personal development, for professional development, that this growth potential. It's the ability to expand with growth. And without going too deep in here, this is incredibly important because mindset really matters. Are we carrying a mindset of growth or a mindset that is fixed? Fixed says, I am the way that I am. This is what you get. And I won't let you pitch a fit, right? You're just going to get what you get. That's fixed. Growth is, I'm constantly evolving. I'm constantly growing. There's always going to be something more that could be better. There's always going to be a different perspective or something new, a new way of thinking, a new path to follow to get to where we want to go. That's growth. So growth potential, I think, is incredibly important. And I would just challenge us as women who are powerful each in our own rights, that we keep in mind that the moment we sense a sense of complacency in our lives, our thought life, our relational lives, that we want to address that right away. Because complacency really truly is you're already on the going backwards movement. So growth potential. Number 4, follow through. I mean, seriously, grit and determination to get the job done. Because within Southwestern we've coached and trained hundreds of thousands of people in a variety. I mean, I think right now we're in 36 different countries. And we've been able to work with some of the best of the best, like top people in a variety of industries. And there's key characteristics of people that perform at the top of their game, be them leaders or salespeople. One of the characteristics that we see consistently among people who are doing incredibly well in their fields is they find a way, not an excuse. And that speaks to this follow through. It's finding a way, not an excuse. So a determination to get the job done. Notice in 2 words that I wrote here, completely and with consistency. That's the key. So the follow through is important. Number 5, loyalty. Put the organizational needs above personal desires. And remember, let's put that into context, right? We're not asking someone to neglect their family, for example, when family has needs, but it's as an overall that this is more personal. In other words, I may want to attain to a certain level. That's my personal desire. Does it cause me to be disloyal in order to achieve that personal desire? Does that make sense? And I think that's challenging in our culture today because it's so easy to start comparing ourselves to what other people are doing. Well, I mean, why did that person get to do that? I mean, they got there a lot faster than I got there, as an example. And so if we're not careful, it can put us into a little bit of a tailspin where our personal desires can actually, without realizing it, move us into a place of disloyalty. So the loyalty is important. Number 6, resilience. I love this word, resilience. The ability to bounce back when problems arise. Bounce back when problems arise. I recently heard someone describe, it may have been someone in this room, and so if so, you can make sure to tell me, that when we think about resilience with, say, our children, because some of our good news that we were sharing when we started this meeting revolved around our kids. And they talked about the resilience with our children, be them smaller or even into adult, is to think about you have a rubber ball and you have a glass ball. In thinking about what's most important where our children are concerned, we need to think about, is this a rubber ball? If I drop it, it's gonna bounce back. Or is this a glass ball? If I drop it, it's gonna shatter and it'll be very difficult to pick up those pieces. So when we think about resilience, it's this idea of bouncing back when problems arise. And sometimes we need to ask ourselves, am I dealing with a rubber ball? In terms of the amount of anxiety that I allow to overtake me as it relates to this, or is it a glass ball? It carries greater weight. It's more significant where that is concerned. Number 7, integrity. Trustworthiness and solid character. Consistent words and walk. Oftentimes, people will say it's doing the right thing when no one's watching. That's integrity. Whether you get recognition for it or not. The integrity piece is incredibly important, really showing that character where that's concerned. And by the way, I would attach integrity and some of the notes that I made about loyalty, those could be very intertwined. If our personal desires move us into a space of potential disloyalty, we may choose to potentially do things that are not fully integrous because we become so self-focused where that's concerned. Number 8, big picture mindset. So we kind of started there. It's like the whole picture, the whole big picture of the organization and all the needs. That's a mark of a good leader. I think you ladies were picking up on that, right? It's the bigger goal. It's a broader goal, but it's there are possible different pathways for getting that. It's having an expanded perspective, especially of the people within the organization. A leader needs a big picture mindset. It's not just what's right in front of me. It is the bigger picture of where are we going. Number 9, discipline. Do what is required regardless of personal mood. Yesterday, I had a very frustrating situation, and I mean, truthfully, I was just mad. I was mad at a lot of different things, but anger would definitely have been part of it. And I got home and I had scheduled to be phone calling with a colleague. We do that for accountability purposes. I highly recommend it, especially if you're more of a solopreneur and you need accountability. Showing up on a Zoom or a Teams where you're not necessarily listening to each other, but I see your face on the other side of that computer screen and you're expecting me to show up and I want to show up for you. even though I don't want to show up, is incredibly powerful. And that was me yesterday. I was like, I told Jackie that I would show up from 4 until 5 o'clock in order to make phone calls. And I didn't want to do it, period. I just wanted to be able to do something different because of how I was feeling, and had to just suck it up and get on there and make the first call. So this idea of discipline is, a willingness to do it even when we are not in the mood to it. I don't know, can anybody else relate to not feeling like wanting to do something and still having to do it? All right. Number 10, this is a good 10th one to come to kind of pull it all together. Gratitude. An attitude of thankfulness that becomes a way of life. An attitude of thankfulness that becomes a way of life. I would connect number 10 to number 1. One of the best ways to cultivate positivity or to have positiveness in your life is to live in gratitude. For gratitude to be a way of life. So I want you to think about the 10 words: positive or positivity, servanthood, growth potential, follow through, loyalty, resilience, integrity, big picture mindset, discipline, and gratitude. All right, with those 10, whether you were ranking yourself or you were thinking about people within your organization, I want to ask, which word stood out to you the most? And here's the rest of my question. That you are saying, I know I want to grow here. Maybe I'm a 4 and I'd like to be at a 5 more consistently. Or I'm a 3 and I'd like to get to a 4, or even a 3.5 for that matter, more consistently. What is that for you? Which one? Discipline. Tell me why, Zoe.
I'm terrible about time blocking, and if I know I need to be editing right now, but oh my goodness, I forgot I needed to respond to that email that I just got. So then I go down that rabbit hole of the email, and then, what was their friend's name from Facebook? And the next thing you know, I just wasted 45 minutes, and I should have been retouching. So now I have to,
Now you feel like you're
Right.
stressed to get it done. Can anybody relate to the need for discipline as it relates to what we do with our time? Yes, many of you are shaking your heads where that is concerned. All right, who else? Who has a different one? Yes, ma'am, Lara.
Servanthood.
Okay, tell me why.
Last night, I made myself a small little snack after dinner, and I didn't offer to make one for my husband, and he mentioned it. And so this stands out to me right now. Like, all of these 10 things are great for business, but they're also great for a marriage.
Yes. Yes.
So I want to be better in servanthood in my marriage.
That's
for me.
but I love that you connected it. These 10 qualities are great relationally, be it in a marriage, a friendship, with our children. Yes. Okay, who else has a different one? Yes, ma'am. Resilience. Tell me why, Kelly.
Just been a rough year and just wake up, just bounce back, and whatever went wrong the day before, just bounce back and get over it and move on.
Okay.
So
The ability to wake up and keep moving forward, right? And not allow whether it's negative or challenging or difficulty or death, to keep us back there, but find a way to just take even if it's a baby step forward. I love it. Somebody that has a different one.
Mine's follow through.
Okay, tell us why.
So I always have really great ideas in the morning, and this is how I'm going to do my day. I plan and all that, and then, sparkly, shiny things will derail me. And Brian Tracy said a long time ago, if you're a procrastinator or not able to follow through, eat your frog. Do the things that you are dreading the most, do them first and get them out of the way so that you don't have them hanging over your head all day long and pushing it off to another day.
Oh,
And
yes.
so that's a really big one for me.
Who is a pro?
I can identify with it, but I haven't been able to fix it.
Got it. Who is a pro at procrastinating?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, baby. Yeah, it can get the best of us if we are not careful. Yes, ma'am, Sharon.
I just want to say, as far as what about eating the frog, and the thing is, a lot of times the frog's not that bad after you eat it.
Right.
You just get
It kind of tastes like chicken after you cook it the right way. Just saying.
Does not.
The thing is, it's like, okay, let me have an advertiser, and Sharon just like, kind of mess with yourself.
So that's an interesting, if I may, on that about so her point was sometimes the frog doesn't taste as bad as you make it out to potentially taste in your mind once you eat it. So there's something called prohibitive conscience, right? So we set up in our mind, we get the call, we have the message, oh, that's going to be whatever we've labeled it, it's going to be bad, it's going to be hard, they're wanting to quit, or whatever it is that is negative, that prohibitive conscience within us will tend to go more negative. That's the challenge with our self-talk can go negative so quickly. And we can become characterized or patterned by a quick exit off the pathway of positivity into the pathway of negativity because we've allowed that pattern to develop in our mind. So I appreciate you saying that and as women, I will say, because our limbic system is larger than men, because signals come up through your spine, it goes through your limbic system, which is like the emotional seat, to the frontal lobe, the frontal portion of your brain. And because our limbic system is bigger, this is why if, let's say, Samuel was driving down to San Antonio a couple of weeks ago for a conference, and he was supposed to call and he hasn't called, where does my brain go? He's dead on the side of the road. Like he had an accident or something, right? Like our emotions can like spiral us out more quickly. Some of that's because our limbic system is larger. And so that's why we're much more in touch with our emotions. So it's finding ways to help stop that in their tracks before they expand and they become overwhelming for us. I love that. Somebody else.
Big picture mindset.
All right, tell me why, Sam.
So right now with my particular company, we're doing a lot of reorganization, going from an owner's model to a regional model, which is really scary for a lot of people because we've been with our owners we've been with particular people for so long. So I guess kind of like into the unknown. So I know my GM and my AGM are a little like, hey, but I'm still feeling kind of new. I was like, hey, this might be a great opportunity for us to get more insight, especially with the crazy market that Alan is in hotels. And also to just realizing that change is always going to happen, especially in the hospitality world. I mean, in 2020, like working with Hilton Corporate, and then 6 weeks later, I was terminated because COVID. So change is inevitable and it's going to happen, but having that growth mindset and knowing like later down that road, that bigger picture.
I'm sure you've heard the phrase, change is inevitable. It's what we're doing to prepare for it that can be a difference maker in how we navigate through it, right? Whether it shuts us down and it paralyzes us, or we are gaining the skills and the mindsets necessary to thrive in the midst of it. So I appreciate you saying that. Anybody else, that one really stood out to you? This is where, oh yes, Sharon.
What stood out to you?
Well, I was just looking for my own self, so thank you for asking. I would say for me, what I know, I'm like trying to think about like where I am and what I think for me it would also be big picture mindset. And let me explain why. I'm a global abstract thinker already, so I'm thinking in the big picture on a regular basis. Here is where I have inner tension within me, is because I'm an achiever. And if you have ever taken the Marcus Buckingham Strengths Finders, that one of my top is achiever and activator. So I am all about achieving the next thing, and I want to activate other people to, whether it's success or growth or whatever that case is. So as an achiever wanting to get things done, oftentimes that can have me more zero focused in the here and now. And I have to be careful not to neglect the big picture of where I'm going. So just case in point yesterday, part of that frustration was it was a selling opportunity and I left there without any sales. And I spent a lot of time, a lot of energy in that particular, for that particular situation. And so I left there frustrated. So if I'm not careful, that can have me focused on the here and now to the neglect of the big picture piece. And so for me, one of the ways that I keep big picture mindset in front of me is I always say to myself, what's happening in my here and now is to prepare me for my there and then. What's happening in my here and now is to prepare me for what's coming in my there and then. And that, it's a great way for me to be reminded of that. And I think, I mean, I appreciate you asking because I still hadn't fully processed that yesterday until that moment because you did ask me that. So thank you for doing that. So here's how I want to close this and encourage you. If we don't have big picture, we cannot influence people to have big picture. So no matter which one of these qualities that really stood out to you today, I do want to encourage you, really guard yourself over the management myth, the entrepreneur pioneer myth, the knowledge myth, the position myth, and recognize that you were created to be the person that you are with the skill set that you have, with the propensities that you have for the things that bring passion, that ignite that flame within you, that cause you to want to grow for the purpose of influencing other people. And the reality is, in every interaction, in every engagement, you are influencing positively or negatively. And my challenge to you is to set about to be a person who influences people because you're leading yourself and those around you with big picture thinking. And for the purpose of the podcast, the whole goal of big picture thinking is that in our lives and in our businesses, when we are cultivating thinking that matters, we can live a life, we can build a business that matters.